Hey friends, hey, what's up? My name is Savannah Grace and welcome back to the True Talk podcast. And happy True Talk Tuesday, you guys. Happy True Talk Tuesday. I am so excited for this week's episode, y'all, because even if y'all don't get anything out of it, which I highly doubt you won't, because this episode was just so amazing, we have a special guest on here. And her name is Jennifer Sartain. She is the founder of the Dating Initiative, and we talk about everything on this podcast. We talk about what the Dating Initiative is, but that's just the beginning of it. From there, we talk about relationships in your life, and just so many amazing, wonderful things that I am going to go back and re-listen to this podcast just to be able to hear again everything that she said, because she is just full of so much wisdom and so much knowledge. And so I am so excited. Like I said, Jennifer Sartain, she is the founder of the Dating Initiative, which is just basically a place where it just encourages married couples or people in general just to get back to dating, that fun intentionality and, reconnecting in relationships. And if you want to check more about that, we will have a link down below in the bio and all that kind of stuff. But, and you can follow her on Instagram, Facebook, and go to their link online, their webpage, whatever that is called, website. My brain could not think of what that was called. You can go on their website and you can look on there for the stuff, but I'm going to quit rambling because I know you guys did not come on here to listen to me ramble. You came to listen to her and her wonderful wisdom. So again, I am just beyond excited for this episode, and I pray that you guys get the amazing, wonderful wisdom that she poured out in me. I pray that you guys receive that as well. So grab your cup of coffee, get you a cozy blanket, or if you're driving down the road, turn on your AC so you do not go to sleep. And, let's just get ready for another wonderful episode of True Talk Podcast. Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Great. Doing great.
Good. Yay. Well, I just want to say thank you for being on the podcast. I mean, I know Rita said that before, but I just want to say thank you. And before we get started, well, actually, I guess we are getting started. Do you just want to give a quick little introduction for yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I am Jennifer Sartain. I am a mom and a wife. Been married for 9 years, and my son is 4 years old. I sent them off to the ball field, so they're playing baseball right now. So I have a quiet house for once. Doesn't happen very often. But I am the owner of the Dating Initiative, and really just have a heart for seeing people feel valued and loved and cared for. And so that's kind of where it all started.
Oh, I love that so much. Listen, a quiet house, you take it when you can get it. I
Yeah.
mean, we
Yeah.
don't have any young kids at the house, but when my niece comes over, she's 6 months old and she's starting to learn to use her voice, and it is
Uh-huh.
loud, and you're just like,
Yeah.
you're cute as can be, but you are loud. She leaves
Yeah.
she goes back to my sister's house, and we're just like, okay, where it's quiet. So
Yeah.
I get it, but I love that. Now, before we get too deep into it, I do like to ask a silly little question. That I actually did this with some other guests too. But if you had to pick your favorite ice cream, what would it be?
Oh, ice cream. Okay. So I really like trying new things. So
Mm.
like everywhere I go, I want to try something new or unique wherever it is. But I would say if I had to choose like a go-to, it would probably be Oreo cheesecake,
Ooh.
or key lime pie is really good too. It's probably tied.
Oh,
Yeah.
those are like unique flavors. Like
Yeah.
I'm like a basic, I like cookies and cream, but those are unique
Mhm.
flavors. I love those.
Yeah.
I love those. Just a little icebreaker. I feel like you really can get to know somebody over like a simple
Oh,
thing
yeah.
like that. You can see, cause see, I'm the way, if I go to an ice cream shop, I will sample everything, but I will
Mhm.
not get a new
Yeah.
flavor unless it is just like poured out from the gates of heaven. I will not get a new flavor because I don't want to waste all this, I don't want to waste it on this ice cream.
Yeah.
Like, I want to have it on something good. So that is so funny.
Yeah.
But okay, back to the dating initiative. We just like to keep it silly sometimes, but
Yeah,
back
I
to it.
love it.
So you've been married 9 years. You have a little
Mhm.
boy that you
Yes.
said, they're at the ball field, which is so fun. Um, and you said you just love seeing that healthy building of, relationships and connecting and stuff like that. How would you
Mhm.
say, you got, or what would you say the dating initiative is? Let's start with that. What would you say it is?
Yeah, okay, so usually, like, the elevator pitch when I share with people, the dating initiative is a resource for couples to make the most of their time together. We love equipping couples to go and grow together. And so whether that looks like, planning the dates for them or giving them the resources for them to plan it themselves, or, having date night events that they can come and not have to worry about the details, they just
Mhm,
show up. Um, and then we also have a lot of online digital resources as
mhm.
well. So for all of those things, they're all just centered around being intentional with the time that you have with
Yeah.
your loved one. And it really started from, like I said earlier, just a passion for seeing people feel valued and cared for and seen.
Mhm,
And it was a season a few years ago where several people in my sphere of influence got a divorce, and like a commonality with several of them where they just kind of shared, they had been married for like decades, and
mhm.
they just shared like, we just kind of grew apart.
Yeah.
And that is easy to happen if you're not being intentional. Like,
Yeah.
growth doesn't happen on an accident,
Mhm.
so you have to be intentional with it. And so my heart just broke when I heard that, because I'm like, that's so avoidable. Like, it
Yeah.
just takes intention. It's not easy,
Mhm.
but it does take intentionality. And so at the same time, I was already like, my ears were kind of in tune to that, and
Yeah.
my heart, I felt that burden. And
Mhm.
so, anytime you kind of feel a burden, start to feel kind of a passion rising in you, like, your ears kind of prick up, like, you
Yeah.
start to be a little bit more aware, because you can tell, like, the Lord is doing something in you, like,
Yeah.
he's starting to awaken a passion for you, he's starting to, like, um, remind you of this burden that he put on your heart. And so I was
Mhm.
already aware of it and sensitive to it. And so at the same time, I was also hearing complaints from like other married women. They're like, well, we just never, like, we don't go out anymore, like,
Yeah.
we don't have time for that. Or, the younger girls were like, he'll ask me out and then we'll get in the car on Friday and he's like, well, what do you want to do? And they're so frustrated because they're like,
Yes.
what, you didn't plan anything? Like, what was your plan? And my
Yes.
thing is like, let's not fault the guys for not being like organized or a
Yeah.
good planner or creative, like, whatever. Like, let's just put something in their hands that helps them plan it. And then
Yeah.
they're still being intentional. They're still taking the initiative and being thoughtful to make time, to grow together. But they don't have to come up with all the details. Like, we can do
Yeah.
that for them. And then it's still creating that experience and that opportunity to grow together.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I no, I love that because as I am transitioning into adult years, like when you're in school or whatever, you just kind of hang out people you have things to do with, and obviously you're with them all the time and stuff. But as I'm learning, like even me and my best friend were the same age, like 2 or 3 months, or we're 2 months apart, and we're like
Mm,
we have so many things together, but we have come to realize, like, even with our friendship, that relationship, it takes intentionality. Like,
mhm,
we'll have girls' days where we just go thrifting and shopping and we just talk and
mhm.
hang out. And you know, it's like, we love you. She's about to get married. So we're like, we love you, Cam, but you're going to have to go. We need girl time. Like, it's just, and even just relationships in general, whether that's family or anything, it
Mhm.
takes intentionality. And I love
Yes,
that
it
so
does.
much. So, I know me and you have talked about this, but for all the lovely people who haven't, what kind of got this? I know you said like you heard people around you getting, were getting divorced and all these kinds of things. But when you were younger or even like in high school years, did you ever have that kind of spark for like, or not spark, that feeling of like wanting to see that relationship and that value
Mm,
that in people and stuff, and just kind of share your heart on that whole thing as far as that. I'm trying to figure out the right way to say it, the wording, but like just that
yeah.
intentionality in people and wanting them
Mhm.
to see the value in each other.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can tell, like, just the way that God was, like, weaving it in to my life, and just,
Mhm.
like, the whole plan for it even from a young age. Like, I mean, I'm a hopeless romantic, so like even
Me
at a
too,
young
girl.
age,
Me too.
like so like I loved like all the rom-coms and
Yep.
watching chick flicks and any romance books, like anything like that. Like I loved it. And even if I noticed too, like I thought about this the other day, I noticed that like even the books that really weren't even that good, like maybe the writing wasn't great or
Yeah.
like the plot wasn't great. Like if they hadn't gotten together, I could not put the book down. Like I couldn't just decide like not to
Yeah.
finish it. Like I had to just push
Yeah.
through the dialogue and the narrative to like get
Yes.
to the point where they got together because I was just like they have to be together, like
Yes.
just just romantic. I love it. And
Girl, me
so
too. Me too.
so I love seeing that like in real life where whether it's like new relationships and they're like at that fun age where or
Mm.
that fun like season where they're just getting to know each other and I can help them like build healthy foundation for that relationship, or it is like they have been married for years or for decades and maybe like this spark is gone and they're trying to figure out how to get it back, and like being able to see them start to thrive again when they start to like take the initiative in their relationship and prioritize their relationship, like
Mhm.
that's a huge win for me too. And so that
Yeah.
makes me so excited. But even more than just relationships, like I know that a big part of my testimony is really centered around a lot of the insecurities that I dealt with growing up of not feeling seen, not feeling heard, not feeling
Mm.
like I was worthy of being seen and heard. And
Yeah.
so that kind of spiral, the enemy used those insecurities to also then spiral into becoming like an obsessively people pleaser.
Yeah.
And so that was something that I was really like bound up in as well. Was not only was I super insecure, but I was also overcompensating to try and be a people pleaser to make them want to see me, want to
Yeah.
be around me. And so, what the enemy meant for evil, the Lord's going to use for good. And so
Amen. Yeah.
He took that and redeemed it. And now I'm able to use those insecurities that I had to fuel that passion for helping other people feel like they're cared for, like they are worthy of being seen and heard and valued,
Mm.
whether it's through their person planning a date for them where they feel special and loved and cared for, or even just in general, like just empowering people to be better friends and to be
Yeah.
to just honor people so that they feel valued like that. And so that people pleasing got redeemed into
Yeah.
just a observancy of being able to like
Mhm.
pay attention to details about people and how things make them feel. And it's a discern obviously it's a gift from the Holy Spirit. It's not me,
Yeah.
but it's just being intentional to recognize people and what they're going through and take that into consideration and how I can encourage them right where they're at. And
Yeah.
so
No, I
yeah,
I
so that
love that, and I think what's so cool about it is, like, obviously the dating initiative, like, it's in the title, it's dating, but I think what's cool
mhm,
is, like, even like that night that we had talked and hearing you talk about it now, even like from a non-dating perspective, there are so many things about it that you can apply. And I
mhm,
think what's also cool is like obviously the center focus of it is relationship and
mhm,
cultivating relationship, cultivating intentionality in relationship and stuff like that. And obviously like, the dating initiative, it's geared towards married couples and, dating and all that kind of stuff. But I think what's cool
mhm,
is that to me, like, when I see it, I see, like, it's like a reflection of God because it's the same way
mm,
with God as we have to be. I mean, it's not saying that we don't love them, like, I love my family and I love my sister, my best friend, I love them, but ti life gets busy and I've gotta be
mhm,
intentional about
yeah,
spending time with them, and it's the same way with God is that, sometimes we can get so caught up in just doing the daily 9 to 5 grind and,
mhm,
especially, I'm not a mother yet, but, watching my sister transition into motherhood for these past 6 months, seeing how much her life has changed just being a mother,
mhm,
you've got all these different things going on, and so you don't realize the importance of intentionality,
yeah,
which and I love and stuff, and I love how you can apply that to, like, your everyday life, but also you can apply that to your spiritual life, just so much, and I just love that so much, but how would you say on that subject of intentionality, even, say, like, you can't go on a date night every single weekend or anything like that,
mhm,
what are some things that you do, in your marriage or even just relationships in general, like, how you are intentional about you know, just keeping that relationship going, whether that be, like I said, with friends or relationships or even, your husband or whatever, what are just some small things that you do? Or, if someone out there is like, I don't know how to like, they're in that early stages of marriage where they're like,
Mhm.
the honeymoon phase is kind of wearing off and it's kind of okay, we're in the daily 9 to 5 and stuff. What advice would you give to help someone be more intentional in what they do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, in any relationship, you don't grow closer on accident, so it does have to be intentional. And, um, with any of those situations that you said, your friendships, your early dating, your spouse, your kids, like all of that, I think as I know for me personally, like as the Lord continues to like refine my um flesh from
Mm.
being so selfish and so just self-centered and just thinking about
Yeah.
myself and turning it outward to whoever's in front of me or whoever he's calling me to pour into in that moment or that season. It's um it's so much more empowering when I know that I'm doing it through him and like
Mhm.
the love that he has for them and being able to see them the way that he sees them rather than just like through the lens of like, oh, he's my kid and he's driving me crazy today. And like, all the things that
Yeah.
like as a human, like we think about those things and we filter how we see people through those things. But we're able to shift our perspective to be able to see them the way that God sees them, then we start to recognize like the value, and then we start to see the purpose in them.
Mhm.
We start to see the uniqueness in them, and
Yeah.
that allows us to love them well. And whether that means going out on a date that's like this elaborate thing that you planned, or whether it just means sitting on the couch and just stopping for a second, putting your phones down, and
Mhm.
just like looking each other in the eye and
Yeah.
asking how your day went, or asking how they're feeling in this season. Like what I love asking, I have two questions I really enjoy asking people, and it's what's kicking your butt lately,
Mhm.
and what is bringing you joy in this season. And it's just, it's kind of just what are your highs and lows, but it's just a
Yeah.
different way of asking it.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
yeah, and just like being able to talk about it, like being able to be honest and letting them
Mhm.
know that it's a safe place for them to be honest and just
Yeah.
vulnerable and raw with you, I think is really important. And so, in between those dates, just cultivating that relationship through
Yeah.
communication, through like, simple acts like if you're at the grocery store or the gas station, like pay attention to what their favorite candy bar is, and
Yeah.
like grab their favorite candy bar and bring it home and say like, hey, I was at a gas station, I know
Yeah.
this is your favorite, so I bought it for you. Like you just the fact that you remembered their favorite candy bar
Mhm.
and that you thought about it and that you cared enough to actually buy it and bring it back for them, like, you won't believe how much that actually means to
No,
people.
yeah.
And
Yeah, no, that's
it's
something that
yeah.
my parents, my dad, he's done that before because
No.
I loved Twixes and stuff, and so
Uh-huh.
he would sometimes bring me home, like, a Twix bar and stuff, and I love that stuff, but what I loved, kinda back earlier, what you had said is, I'm probably gonna mess up the way you said this, but you were just talking
It's
about,
fine.
when you get to that place of, like, closeness, and it's I what hold on, I'm just gonna say it the way my brain processed it, but, you find joy in serving that person,
Yeah.
like, I know for myself, like, cooking, I love cooking and baking. My sister on
Mhm.
the I bring up my sister, she knows this, she's already used to it, but I use her so much, but she hates it. She hates it with a passion. And it's so funny because now that she's got my niece, she's, like, trying to cook all these things and stuff, which thankfully she still is in early stages, but she's like, I hate being in the kitchen, and I love being in the kitchen." And so for
Yeah.
me, like, getting to serve them is making a whole meal for them and making all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff and doing all that, and I do it because I love them and I love,
Mhm.
doing that with them, but I think also, like, I know, like, they know that's my way of pouring out to them, and, they know that's my way of showing love to them, and so it makes me wanna do it more for them and do it more for the people around me, and I think when you build that closeness in those relationships where it's like, you can really cultivate that relationship. Because I think also too, another thing is that with I think we've gotten so focused on numbers and like how many people we can have. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
there's a bad thing in having a lot of friends, but like, you know, I'm not going to talk to 12 people about the same deep internal issues I'm dealing with. Like that's
Yeah.
just not reality. Unless I'm just like wanting everyone to pity me, I'm not going to talk to everybody. I'm
Yeah.
going to have a few people that I'm close to. And I think I'm at this point. I think I'm at this point where I'm starting to understand like there's value in that close relationships and
Mhm.
when you start to see like these are the people like okay I'm going to do life with this person and you start being intentional about that. I think it's beautiful when you see that intentionality through serving them or like you
Yeah.
said or even something as simple as getting a candy bar or if you're at Marshall's and you see something cute and you're like you know what I want to get my girl this because I know she likes this
Yeah.
simple things like that. And so I love that and I think that can even relate even into our relationship with Christ, of course, because we are the image bearers of Christ, so everything that we do that can reflect him is just amazing. So I love that so much. But we can kind of go back shifting into the dating initiative. So, um this is going to be a fun little question, but what advice would you give someone who is maybe single and they are
Mm.
wanting to cultivate these relationships or they are wanting to, even go out into the dating world and kind of start that? What would be
Mm.
your advice for them in that area?
Yeah. I get this question a lot, mostly because with the name The Dating Initiative, everyone just assumes that we like do the matching. And we don't yet, maybe not ever.
She's like,
The
"Not
Lord's
yet,
gonna
but we're
have
gonna have a good Christian Tinder come up."
I don't know. The Lord is really, he's gonna have to tell me if he wants me to do that because that is not like just something I
Yeah,
want to do. Only
yeah.
I mean, there's like when there really is a lot of weight going into like who are you choosing to partner with in the
No, yeah.
kingdom for the rest of your life? Like it's huge, especially
No, it
now
is
that
so
I'm
true.
have a kid and I'm co-parenting with my husband and like there's so much that goes into it. And so
Yeah.
it is a very weighty decision that I do not feel called to carry
No. Well,
in this season.
that's like people will give me because like obviously I'm single. People have given me they're like, "Well, just go out and just date people. Like you'll be fine." I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Y'all can call me
Uh,
picky patty all day long, but I am not going out and just dating some random Joe Schmo because
yeah.
I want to get a feel." I was like, "No." I was like, maybe that worked for you, but I'm like, because like you said, it's important. You think you're not just like going on a fun date. You're literally like, is this going to be my life partner? Is this going to be the person I do
Mhm.
life with and stuff? I'm not trying to put pressure on someone if you're about to go on a first date. You
Yeah.
ain't got to know on the first date. But I just,
No.
I just mean, just be wise and, but I get it. But anyway, so continue.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And everybody dates differently. Like some people date to get to know people.
Mhm.
And other people date because they already know the person and they know that they want to take it to the next level. And so I think there's kind of two approaches with in that sense with dating. And I don't think there's a right or wrong. I know for me personally, I had the approach of like, I'm going to get to know them really well. I'm going to
Mm.
be friends with them and
Yeah.
see if like we're even compatible as friends first, and then
Yes.
we'll go from there. And so Adam's actually the only boyfriend that I've ever had because of
Oh,
that.
that's the
So
sweetest. I love
yeah.
that.
So yeah, so honestly, as far as like the newly dating and single, that's like I guess 13 years ago for me. So I'm going to be pulling from the recesses of my mind, but no, I'm kidding. I think that the best thing that you can do as you're preparing to get into the dating field and everything is just looking inwardly. I mean, we
Mhm.
already talked about how the Lord will take you through a refining process, and He's obviously always going to be refining us and our
Yeah.
character and our personality and everything. But the more that you can lean into that process and become everything that He's calling you to um, in this season, the better, because
Mm.
then you're not two things. You're not trying to become that person while you're also trying to get in a relationship with someone and
Yeah.
learn them as well and everything. But at the second thing that I would say is that um, if you don't know who you are yet and you're still figuring it out and you are not that person yet and you're still trying to become that person, there is a temptation when you meet someone that you think is like the one, to allow them to define that who you are and to shape who you are
Mhm.
and to like complete, I said I
Yeah.
love rom-coms. I do hate the cheesiness of rom-coms where it's like you complete me, like that they're everything
Yes.
to you. And that's just as a believer, like we know that's not
Yeah.
true. Like, and so the more that you can aim for having two whole people come into a relationship
Yes.
rather than two very broken people trying to fix each other and
Yeah.
complete each other, but instead allowing the Lord to define your identity, to help refine that identity and that
Yes.
personality, and to just grow you into that woman that He's called you to be, then you are going to be so much more, for lack of a better word, like marketable on the dating
Yes. No,
market,
yeah.
because you already know who you are, and you're not going to lower your standards, for someone that you
Mhm.
come across because you're already confident in it, and you're not going to be shaped and formed by that other person. Now, I mean, after being married for 9 years and we dated for 3 years before, well, no, we dated for 4 years before that. Um, I mean, yes, we affect each other. Like our personalities are very
Oh,
similar. We laugh at
yeah.
the same things. After you're with someone for a while, you
Oh,
start
yeah.
to like be alike. And there's a difference in that. And just becoming what you think that other person wants just
Yeah.
because you're craving that relationship so much. And so I think about it in the sense that, if you are if someone is hungry for that relationship, you think about like physical hunger. Like if you're
Yeah.
like starving and you like haven't eaten all day and you finally get a chance to eat, like you'll probably eat whatever's in the fridge, like or
Yeah.
whatever's in the pantry. You're just gonna eat it, because you're hungry. But if you're already satisfied and you've already like maybe ate a really healthy and filling lunch and
Mhm.
now you're looking for something for dinner, like you are going to take the time probably to like cook something that's really healthy. You're gonna have healthy portions, like you're gonna
Yeah.
do all the things that are healthy for you because you're not to the point that you're just starving and craving whatever's available. And
Yeah.
so I think that we can look at that in our dating life as well, not just starved and craving that attention or that affection, um, from others, that
Yeah.
we will just take whatever comes along,
Mhm.
but instead we're filled by Christ and we know who we are in Him and we know that He satisfies us first and foremost, and anything else above that from a guy,
Yeah.
or just from whoever you're in a relationship with is, um, I think mostly girls listen to your podcast, right? I'm speaking to the
Oh,
girls,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
if there are
Yeah.
guys,
No, yeah, that's
but
fine. It's like probably I'd say like 70-30, like 7 like
okay,
mostly girls, but there are a couple guys. But yeah, it's yeah.
okay, yeah. So when you get ready to date, whether you're a guy or a girl, they you have to be at that place where you're not just looking
Mhm.
for someone to complete you. You're not just looking for someone to add value to you or make you feel like you have value just because they're giving you attention. Like
Yeah.
you have to find that fulfillment in Christ, first. And again, that's not to say that if you're already in a relationship and you are like they're the one and you're also working through things yourself, like
Yeah.
that doesn't mean like go and break up with them
Yeah.
tomorrow. It just means like, if you're
Yeah.
at a place where you're just getting started, like start on a healthy foundation. If you
Yes.
didn't start on a healthy foundation, you're not like doomed. Like
Yes.
there's
Yes.
so much grace. But
Yes.
yeah, I just say for anyone getting started, I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, I love that. I love back at what you said, about, going in half and half in a relationship. Because growing up,
Mm,
I always heard like, and not my parents didn't ever like reflect it. They had an amazing marriage, but, I had always heard that, you give 50-50. Like I give 50, you give 50. And when I was in college and it was the ministry school, one of the teachers was saying, she was like, I actually want to cancel that. She was like, it's
mm,
not 50-50. She was like, if you try to give 100%, she was like, because
mhm,
at the end of the day, like you're relying on that person to fill up your
mhm,
50%, and then that person's relying on you. She was like, and if neither one of you are full, then either A, one person's gonna be full, the other one's gonna be empty, or, one person's gonna be like all this stuff. And as Christians, obviously we rely on Christ to fulfill our hearts. And like, I
Mhm.
think sometimes we can say that, but he actually doesn't. Like, we can say, like, oh, yes, Lord, you are the love of my life. You satisfy my heart. But then at the end of the day, like you said, we're still seeking that
Mm.
validation from people. I know I've done that. I've done that
Mhm.
before. And I've like, the Lord's like confronted me about it. And I'm like, I am so sorry, Lord, because you get caught up in the lingo and stuff. But anyways, and so I love what you said though about that and just starting on a healthy foundation. And that's the whole, thing with Truly You and True Talk and everything is it all roots back to identity. And I
Mhm.
think, especially with dating and marriage, because obviously like those are, very important and influential relationships in our lives. But in any relationship, it's important to know who you are and to be fulfilled in Christ and in Him alone. Because at the end of the day, there could become a point in your life where, that spouse could pass away or something could happen that you can't let that person be your foundation. And like, I've learned
Mhm.
that with my life, and I'm in that place where I'm like, okay, Lord, like, I think the best advice that I would ever give somebody is like, they're always, oh, what was I going to say? I just had a brain fart and I just like lost what I was going to say, but like, they're like, what's the best like thing you can do to prepare yourself
Oh,
and
yeah.
for getting a boyfriend? That's where I was going. I get little brain farts every now and then. It's okay, but
We all do.
yes. And so, but like I've asked before, I'm like, what's the best way I can prepare myself? And like, you read Proverbs 31, and you're like, okay, I'm going to wake up early in the morning. I'm going to do all this. I'm going to do these
Mhm.
things. But in reality, I think the best way to prepare yourself, just like you said, I'm literally summarizing everything you said, but that's okay. But it's just like you said, is just internally being okay or like, being satisfied internally and not depending
Mhm.
on that other person. Now, there are going to be times like, if I need a good laugh or something, I will go hang out with my best friend Lexi because me and her, we have a great time together. But like at the end of the day, she's not my source of joy, like she's
Mhm.
not the true
Mhm.
source of it and stuff. And so I love all of that so much. And so I guess as we're kind of coming to a close, I would just my last question, I'm trying to think, what do I want it to be? Because you're just full of so much wisdom and so much
Oh.
stuff that I could talk for hours. But what would you say to someone who just has lost like all hope? Like they are just
Mm.
like, they're just like done. Like they've tried the relationships, they've tried to they've tried to spark up that relationship back, or they've tried to do things. What would your advice be to that person who's just like, I'm done?
Mm. That's good. That's good. In a marriage or in like they've been dating and they can't find the person or
Um, either one, honestly. I mean,
Mhm.
it could just in a relationship in general. So it could
Mhm.
be a friendship, it could be a marriage, it could be, anything like that. Just generalized, anything like that.
Okay. Hmm. I mean, I would say I don't wanna just say it depends on the situation, but I would say, especially if it's a marriage, like,
Mhm.
that it's a covenant that you've come into with the Lord, like, He is also faithful to honor that covenant, and there is so much just miraculous power in, like, His ability to restore
Yeah.
things that we thought would never be restored or that, are just we just thought they're dead. My son says, "Totally dead." We saw a squirrel squished on the road the other day, and he was like, "Oh, that squirrel is totally dead."
I
It
love
was like
that.
it was, like, sad, but it was also, like, hilarious.
Did you just say
Anyway, like
that?
yeah, but, we might think it's, like, totally dead, but, like, the Lord who better to resurrect something that we think is,
Mhm.
like, not coming back from the dead, than our Lord. So, um, have to preface it with that, like, even, like, the furthest gone that you think that you are in your marriage, the Lord can still restore. But when it comes to just, friendships or, like, maybe you're dating and you just, like, keep hitting a wall and you're not, making any progress, like, I think that, um, asking the Lord for the discernment that you need for where you're supposed to be in that relationship is so important. And like he cares about those details of our life. I
Mhm.
think sometimes it's easy to to feel like you're just being silly or you're just being dramatic.
Yeah.
Like, why does God care about my friendships? Like, he absolutely does. He cares who
Yeah.
you surround yourself with. He cares who you are influenced by. He cares who you influence. He those relationships don't happen on accident. He puts people in our path for a reason. And so I think a couple of things, defining the relationship and the expectations on that relationship. For friendships, especially, I think that we have a lot of different ways that we can look at friendships. But I think that when you're looking at scripture, anything that refers to friendships in the Bible is talking about iron sharpening iron,
Yeah.
friendships that are going to be mutually beneficial, friendships that are going to be growing each other, sharpening each other, encouraging each other, speaking life into each other, and even speaking hard truths to each other.
Mhm.
And so, if your friendship doesn't look like that, it doesn't mean that your friendship is doomed, but it does mean that you might need to take an assessment on
Yeah.
um, what that relationship is supposed to look like. And I've had to do that before where I've recognized, like, I've gone out to coffee with someone thinking it was a friendship, a mutual friendship,
Yeah.
and starting to recognize, like, okay, wait, like I'm putting in way more into this relationship than they are. And I feel
Yeah.
like I'm just constantly pouring out and constantly investing, and it's never really returned.
Yeah.
And and you can get caught up in that and feeling rejected and feeling discouraged by that. And it's okay to feel discouraged when a relationship doesn't meet the expectations that you
Yeah.
originally had for it. But in those moments, you can ask the Lord, like, is this person supposed to be in my life?
Mhm.
And is it just a hard conversation of coming to them and saying like, "Hey, this is how I'm feeling. Like, can we talk through this?"
Yeah.
Or it could be that God put them in your life, never intending for them to be someone that would be mutually sharpening you, but someone that you were called to pour into.
Mhm.
And when you're able to shift that relationship in your mind and go into it with the expectations that you're not expecting to receive anything from them, you're not expecting to get encouragement from them or for them to constantly be reaching out to you and checking in on you, but you're going into it with, okay, God put them in my life so that I could be a light to them, be an encouragement to them,
Yeah.
be a leader to them, whatever that looks like. Then you don't have to face those disappointments of the missed expectations
Mhm.
because you know what to expect. You're going into it with those clear expectations,
Yeah.
and it's not something that you necessarily have to tell them, like, "Hey, I'm demoting you from friend
Yeah.
to, like,
Yeah.
someone that I've," but it's just something mentally that you can shift that perspective, and I think that, you know, I think that that sometimes can play into dating too, like, maybe
Yeah.
that there are people that are great on paper, like, they seem like you would be compatible on paper as you're dating
Yeah.
someone, but you just don't feel that peace from the Lord that, like, they're someone you're supposed to continue,
Yeah.
pursuing romantically, and you know, I want to make sure this is true before I say this. I'm pretty yeah. So I am like still friends with everyone that I ever like dated or
Yeah.
talked to. And I don't know if that's just because again, the people pleasing back then, like I didn't want anyone to be upset with me. So maybe
Yes.
that had something to do with it. But it was also just a matter of like we talked for a season and we were getting to know each other. We were deciding if we were going to like move to the next step of boyfriend girlfriend. And we came to a mutual decision like, this is not like you're great, I'm great, but this is not like what God has for us. And so, like,
Yeah.
let's be friends. And we did, and we were
Yeah.
friends. And so, I think that that is not going to always be the case, but I think
Yeah.
that the Holy Spirit will give you discernment when that's the case and let you know, like, okay, this person is supposed to be in my life, but
Mhm.
we're not supposed to be romantic.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, this person, I'm not called this person at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
we talked about how marriages, you know,
Mhm.
if you're disappointed in marriages, the Lord can restore. We talked about relationships, with friendships. If you are discouraged in that, and you feel like the friendship is not meeting your expectations, you know,
Mhm.
maybe asking the Holy Spirit for discernment um, on where in the, you know, in your relationship that needs to be, whether
Yeah.
maybe maybe they are a friend, they're supposed to be a friend, and you just need to have a hard conversation and say, "Hey, feels like it's a little unbalanced here."
Yeah.
Or, maybe it's a friendship that you're just called to pour into and to maybe
Mhm.
kind of almost lead them a little bit.
Yeah.
And so you're going in every time you're interacting with them, you're not going into it thinking like, "Okay, how are they gonna ask me? Are they gonna ask me about how my day was? Or are they going to, like, help me feel encouraged or help me feel heard?" You're going into it thinking like, "Okay, how can I encourage them? What are
Yeah.
they going through? How can I be intentional with them?" And it just helps set those expectations. And
Mhm.
then, lastly, for the people that are discouraged in their dating life, we talked about it's okay to recognize when someone
Yeah.
is a great person, but they're not for you. Um, but then also just the discouragement of like just dating and hitting all those walls of like, I just feel like I can't find the one, and, like, is
Yeah.
something wrong with me, and, like, what's going on? And I think there's a couple things you can do if you're in that season. Obviously, what we talked about before as far as, like, how are you preparing to be a girlfriend, to be a wife? Like, how are you allowing the Lord to shape you, and focusing on becoming all that you can in the season while
Yeah.
you're waiting on that person? Um, but then I think as well, I think that there's, like, some practical things that you can do, like,
Yeah.
you can sometimes especially I'm very introverted, and, like, I'm a homebody. So, even
Mhm.
though I love, like, going out and trying new places, seeing new things, all the things that I do to get the date ideas, I really get recharged and refreshed by just being at home with,
Yeah.
like, just with Adam or even just by myself. And
Mhm.
so, I definitely understand people that feel that way, and they really don't either they don't want to or they're not comfortable with, like, getting out and, like, putting themselves out there. And
Yeah.
that's hard, like, especially in this culture, like, especially in the dating culture right now, which, like, Lord willing, we part of the dating initiative is seeking to shift the culture of dating in
Yeah.
our generation right now. But where it is right now, it's kind of like the only place to meet people is like if you go to the bar, or you go to the club,
Yeah.
or you're like in some kind of group or whatever. And so it is hard to meet people.
Yeah.
The beauty of like going to a church is you get to meet people there, and you already know
Mhm.
that you're there for the same reason. So that's
Yeah.
amazing. Um, but I think just being, especially if you go to a small church, um, you it's just the reality of, like, you're not gonna meet them if you don't ever
Yeah.
put yourself in a place to run into someone or
Yeah.
meet someone, and so, mutual connections are always great,
Mhm.
if your friends can help you meet people or set you up, but ultimately, you have to put yourself out there, and it's not
Yeah.
fun, it's uncomfortable, but, whether that means, like, looking at Meetup for something fun that you enjoy, like, maybe they're having a coffee meetup or Eventbrite, like, whatever you look at
Yeah.
for events in your area, like, find something that you already enjoy and just
Mhm.
put yourself out there. Go, like, bring friends, whatever, and see if you can meet someone that has similar interests as you there.
Yeah.
And especially, like, if you don't go to a small church and there are plenty of people in your church, like, definitely
Yeah.
be open to that because you're
Yeah.
looking in the right place if you're looking within your church, and so, or your small groups or, um, the ministry, whatever.
Yeah.
So, that's always a good place to start and just being open to it and
Yeah.
not, building it up in your head of like I think it's very important to have a list of standards,
Mhm.
but I think that it can be dangerous to have almost like this um little like cookie cutter like avatar of like
Yeah.
exactly the kind of man that you want because
Mhm.
um that might not be who God has for you. Like you can ask
Yeah.
the Lord to show him to you, but I think there's a difference in saying like I want him to be a believer, I want him to be a strong leader, I want him
Yeah.
to have high morals and high character, as opposed to like he has to be blonde and he has
Yeah.
to be 6'4" and he has to be
Yes.
like you
Yeah.
know
No,
I don't
that's
know,
so
maybe I don't have to
true.
say that, but
No, that's so well, no, that's so true. Cause like, in high school, one of my a mentor had us do this, and I was actually telling my mom about it the other day. She had us make a list of, like, things that we wanna see in our future husband, and my, like, little teeny bop 16-year-old mind was like, brown hair, because like I was like brown hair, curly hair, got to be like super tall and like all these things. And I put like all this stuff. There's maybe like 3 or 4 spiritual characteristics on there. And I was like, I mean, of course he's gotta be a believer, and of course he's gotta do this, but it was, like, so superficial type stuff, and I was like and then, like, now I'm older, I'm like, "Don't get me wrong, like, I want someone who's attractive." I'm like, "But, you like you said, not doing that." But I wanna go back to what you said, 'cause you were talking about something that I think is so important. I see it so much in my generation is that we don't like to have communication. It's just like a
Mhm,
cutoff. Like we just want to cut people out. Like this is something
mhm,
that I am, learning because like I said, if someone has like say you and a friend get into an argument, instead of communicating, you just want to like cut them out. And I think that's like, something in my generation is that you hear if they're toxic, cut them out of your life, cut them out of your life,
mm,
which is
mhm,
true to a degree. But it was like, like I was talking with my mama and I was like, how do I know if this person's toxic? And I was like, just
mhm,
because we're going through a rough patch and stuff. And I love what you had said. Um, I love what you were saying before when you were talking about understanding what that relationship is, because there
mhm,
are times where, like I said, like, there's me and my best friend. Like we are each other's person. I'm not there to mentor her. She's not there to mentor me. Like it's none of that. But then there are people in my life that the Lord has brought in my path or that I've been put in their path. And, it's like
mhm,
it's a friendship, but also the Lord's put me in their path or put that person in my path to glean off of each other. And like you said, the
mhm.
iron sharpens iron. And I think that is important with any sort of relationship in your life. And, obviously in marriage, you're not gonna be like, all right, you're following me now. Like, I'm the leader
Yeah,
here. But in friendships, in friendships around you and those relationships, understanding what that relationship is because sometimes like
mhm,
like me and my best friend we're Jonathan and David sort of thing, but then sometimes
mhm.
you have an Elijah and Elisha sort of moment where it's like
Yeah.
you're meant to glean off of each other. And so I love what you said. I'm over here like literally pocketing and taking notes of everything because I'm like it's so good. I'm like, how am I going to apply this to my life? What am I going to do here? What am I going to do here? But I love that. And I think where the Lord is honestly having us is like, I think He loves revival and I think He loves these things, but I think the Lord also is bringing us back to simplicity in
Mhm,
relationships because, like, excuse me, we got so, I think social media caused us to be so introverted because
mm,
I'm the same way. Like, when I'm around people that I'm comfortable with, I'm crazy and they probably like, "Can you shut up, please?" But, like, when I'm out in public or, like, when I'm
mm,
especially in large crowds, I'm just like, "Put me on the back wall. I wanna be quiet. I wanna
mhm,
be at home in my space or whatever." And I think I love what you said about putting yourself out there, like, be confident, and that also comes from knowing who you are internally because when
mhm.
you put yourself
Yep.
out there and you become vulnerable and not even vulnerable, you don't have to be vulnerable to put yourself out there, you just, you are to a degree, but not like, "Okay, here's everything about me," but,
Yeah.
you're being vulnerable, but, it's just being confident in who you are in the Lord and, having that, like, like you said in the beginning, that steady and steadfast foundation,
Mhm.
um, with that. And like I said, I'm just over here like I'm like, I love everything that you said. And I think these are key tips that you can literally apply, especially in my generation, and just talk to people. Like
Mhm.
talk to guys, talk to girls. It doesn't have to be you can just talk to them as a friend and be like, we can be friends, we can talk. And I think the
Yeah,
Lord is just having us get back and just really simplifying it because I feel like it's gotten overcomplicated. Like maybe
yeah.
that's just me, but I feel like it's just gotten so overcomplicated that it's just like, just talk to them. Like, it doesn't
Mhm.
mean that they're obsessed with you. It doesn't mean you're obsessed with them. It just means you want to have a
Yeah,
conversation with a friend. And I feel like the Lord is just restoring relationships back in, just in everything.
yeah.
But yeah,
So
so
good.
I love that. I love everything. Is there anything else that you want to add? Because I'm over literally like I said, I'm just over here like I can just listen to you talk all day.
Oh,
But is
well,
there is there any sort of advice or anything else you would wanna say, I mean, in regards to literally anything. I mean, it doesn't have to be a relationship. It can be anything at all.
I just want to say, like, I love what you're doing. I love just the life that you speak into people about. I mean, literally what we've been talking about, like finding your identity in Christ and
Mhm,
leaning into that and being truly you, like truly who he called you to be. And I think
mhm.
that when like it can only help us like for
Yeah.
every endeavor that you have, like whether it's looking for a job, whether it's finding the right friends, whether it is finding your husband, like all of the things can only benefit from you knowing who you are and
Yeah.
you leaning into that personality that God gave you, even though he probably has to redeem a little bit of it, but like still he gave you that personality for a reason.
Yes.
And just first and foremost knowing that you're a daughter and a son of God,
Mhm.
like because if you know that, you know that he chose you, you know that like he's seen every day that you've gone through, he's with you today in your present, and he also knows, I mean, Psalm 139 talks about every day that was ordained for you, like
Mhm.
he's seen it and he knows it and he still chose to adopt you. He's still like
Yeah.
adoption doesn't happen on accident, like it's a
Yeah.
very
It's
intentional
intentional.
thing.
Yeah.
Yes, and he saw all of that, and he still chose to adopt you into as a child of God. And so, knowing that he chose you, knowing that he adopted you, knowing that you're his daughter, and that you can walk in confidence in all of those things,
Yeah.
allows you to be confident when you're approaching any kind of relationship. And so, I love that you help people find that, help people walk in that, and just encourage them in it, and in the process of it too, because it's not
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Like those seasons of like refinement and purification and like character definement, like
Yeah.
it's so not fun. It's
And
very
it's not
uncomfortable. It's
overnight.
very no, like it's just so humbling. Like you
Yeah.
just see all of the ugly stuff like come out of you, but it's so good. Like if you really have just the faith and the like courage to
Yeah.
like let God prune that out of you. Like
Mhm.
not to just like let your pride just kind of push it down and say like, "Oh, like, I'm turning a blind eye." Like, I know that that's an issue that I deal with, like, I know I deal with selfishness, but we're just not gonna deal with that right now,
Yeah.
like, but having the courage to say, like, "Okay, God," like, I'm acknowledging that, like, this is a
Yeah.
problem, and I'm bringing it to you, Lord, so that you can redeem it and refine it
Mhm.
and just mold me into who you created me to be, like,
Yeah.
that is it does take courage, and it takes endurance because, like you said, it doesn't happen overnight, like,
Yeah.
it takes a while, and that's the thing with dating too, is I think that in this season, like, we wanna just hurry through it, like, we wanna hurry and find the right person, we don't wanna waste our time, like,
Yeah.
talking to someone if they're not the right one, but sometimes you just have to waste time a little bit, to find who you are, to find who they are, and to
Yeah.
find if you're a good fit, and when you start to recognize that that's what it is, you realize you're not actually wasting your time
Yeah.
because, it does take time, and
Yeah.
you're not gonna know on the second date, and, like,
Mhm.
it
No,
just takes
yeah.
time,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing with yourself, like, you're not gonna know yourself on, like, the second day that you ask the Lord to mold you into who he created you to be. It's gonna take time, and it's gonna take humbling yourself, to acknowledge the ugly
Yeah.
parts and letting him
Yeah.
just refine it,
No,
and so I think
I
it's so
love
great what
that.
you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And I love the dating initiative. I tell you, once the Lord brings me a man, I'll be like, "Hey girl." But
Yeah.
I love it. And I love what you had said about it takes time, and you were talking about that. And I think like I had read the other day and I actually talked about this on the podcast the other day, but I had read
Mhm.
the other day where it was after Jesus had ascended and they were casting lots for the new disciple for who the 12th one was going to be and stuff. And they were like, they had, prayed and they're like, Lord, we surrender this to you. And you know how it works. They were like, okay, who's it going to be? And the Lord picks that person. And the Lord just was like a simple thing. He was like, Savannah, if I wanted you there, I would be there. Just like that 12th
Mm.
disciple, after Judas happened, the 12th disciple got put, in and to be the 12th, apostolic leader in the faith and all this kind of stuff after he got put in. And, the Lord picked him, and the Lord was the same way with me, and he was like, "If I wanted you there, like, you would be there." And it's the same thing,
Mm.
not just even in, like, a physical place, but, like, in relationships and anywhere in life, like, that has been something that the Lord has just been reminding me so much. It's like, like you said, because sometimes you want it overnight and
Mhm.
you're like, God, like I'm ready. Like I want it. I want it. And it's like, if I was truly ready, if it really was that time, if it was meant, like God's not gonna be late. He
Mhm.
would let that happen at that moment. And so my motto has just been like, okay, if God wanted it, it would happen. And I was like,
Yeah.
and, if he wanted it now, it would have happened now. If he wants it
Mm.
tomorrow, it's gonna happen. If he wanted it 2 weeks ago, it would have happened 2 weeks ago. And,
Yeah.
so I'm like, it's not God's not having you wait for no reason. There's a reason that you're
Yeah.
having to wait and stuff. And so
Yes.
I just
That's
love
so
all of
good.
that. I do,
It's so
but
true. I love that because it just made me think about, like, how you're talking about how it's not for nothing, like, he doesn't waste seasons, he doesn't waste our time, and it made me remember, when he fed the 5,000 and he had all the disciples pick up, like, there were 12 baskets left over, and he had the disciples go around and pick up all the leftovers.
Mhm.
And that always stuck out to me because I was like, if he could multiply, like, why does he care about leftovers if he could,
Yeah.
like, multiply it to enough to feed
Yeah.
5,000 people? And the other day, the Lord just like encouraged me with that, of like, I was thinking about a season that is like, one of those seasons where you wish you could have just like skipped that part
Yes.
of your story. And I'm like, wish I was like, Lord, why did you not just let me skip it? And he was like, because I don't waste seasons. Like I
Mm,
don't waste anything.
yeah.
And even to the point of just picking up extra bread and fish that could have just been like left over, but instead he chose not to waste it. He chose to like collect it all in baskets and use it
Yeah.
for his purpose for whatever they did with it. I'm sure like the disciples had food to go as they were going, whatever he did with it. But the fact that they wrote it down, that they picked up all the leftovers, I think
Yeah.
was important.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
knowing that like he doesn't waste anything. And even in a season where it feels like it is a waiting season for you,
Mhm.
whether you're waiting for something big in your life or you're wanting him to do something that, like, a promise that you feel like he's given you and you're not seeing it come to fruition, or you're waiting for the person you're going to marry, whatever it is that you're
Yeah.
waiting on, like, it's not wasted. And
Mhm.
he's going to use it. Now, we can waste it by just sitting
Yes.
around and not doing
Yeah.
something with it. But like he's not wasting if we are actively seeking him in that season of waiting, and depending on him for every step in that season,
Yeah.
then he's not going to let it be wasted. And so I think that's
Yeah.
important too.
Yeah. I love it because there have definitely been times where I have wasted my time and I'm like, Lord, because I was sitting here waiting for him to move and the Lord was sitting waiting for me to look internally. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry about that, Lord. So
Yep.
that is so true. But yes, I'm literally over here like I'm just gonna have to go back and re-listen to this whole thing myself because I have loved this. But I want to say thank you so much for being on here because this has just been a lot. Even if no one else, which I'm sure people are gonna get all these things from it. I have gotten so much from this, and I am
Oh.
like I said, I'm gonna go back and re-listen and take notes and be like, wow, God, this was amazing. So thank you so much for taking your time out of this. And if anybody wants to go and follow her, anything like that, it is the Dating Initiative. And is there anything else with the Dating Initiative that is with that, or is it just a Dating
Mhm.
Initiative right now?
Yeah, the Dating Initiative on Instagram and Facebook, and then the website is just www.thedatinginitiative.com.
Yeah,
So,
and we'll
and
have we'll
thank you. This
oh,
has
no, of
been an honor.
course. Oh,
It's been my
well,
pleasure.
it has been such a joy, and I'll put all those links down below and stuff, and, I will put all that, and so you guys can check it out, but thank you so much for being on this, so
Thank
thank you,
you.
thank
Have
you,
a great
thank
night.
you. Thank you, you too. Wow, you guys, I don't even know what to say about that episode. Like, what do you say after all of that? That has just been amazing, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I have because, like I said, not only was it a joy getting to interview her and talk to her and, share stuff with her, but just to simply listen from her and listen to her heart and just all the amazing, wonderful things. Just wow. I mean, that's all that I can say after that. And I know that I will definitely be going back and listening to that episode. And so, again, I'm going to keep the outro short. If you want to get connected with her, you can go on Instagram. Their profile is The Dating Initiative. And through there, I will have all the links down below, and you can get connected that way through her community and through her business and everything like that. And I would love for you guys to get connected. But as I say every single week on the True Talk podcast, there's no better person to be than who God has created you to be. That's just that simple. He loves you. I love you, but He loves you even more. Go out and be that person that God has created you to be. The world needs it. Jesus wants it, and I want it too. I want to see you walk in your identity that Christ has called you to walk in. So I love you guys. This has been another episode of the True Talk podcast, and happy True Talk Tuesday. If you're listening to this any other day of the week, happy day of the week. So I love you guys, and I will talk to you all later. Bye, friends.